To the TCNJ Business Leaders Talk this month, and it is the last one for this academic year. And so this one is called The Business of Sports. I'm the Dean of the School of Business, Catherine Jervis, and in just a moment, I'm going to introduce a student who is going to introduce you to Rob Roche and Al Guido. Rob is an adjunct professor at TCNJ and the president of RSR Sports Management. And then Al Guido is the president of the San Francisco 49ers. But let me tell you about Shannon Devitt, who is an accounting major with us. Oh, one other housekeeping item that I do need to mention first. For all the attendees, your cameras and microphones will remain off. You will be able to use the Q&A feature to submit questions. So note here, that's the Q&A feature and not chat. And questions will be monitored and answered for you. So to get back to Shannon. Shannon Devitt is an accounting major. She is a senior graduating next month. She is also a TCNJ Women's Basketball All-Star and just nominated to the Blue and Gold Hall of Fame. And I am very happy to say that I met her when I interviewed for this job in December of 2019. So she is the student that I have known the longest. And so I'm very excited to introduce her, and she will go ahead and introduce Rob and Al.
Thank you, Dean Jarvis. As she said, my name is Shannon. I'm super excited to be here and introducing both of our moderator and guest speaker. But first, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone attending, as well as our guest speaker and moderator for being here with us. We're very excited to hear what you have to say, as well as the School of Business Administration. This is one of the most favorite business leaders talks we have, most well attended every year. It's enjoyed, so thank you for putting it on. So with that being said, I'm here to introduce Rob Roche. As Dean Jarvis said before, we're super excited to have him here tonight, as well as have him as an adjunct professor here. Robert is certified by the National Football League Players Association as a contract advisor and is authorized to negotiate with NFL teams on behalf of professional football players that have been drafted by NFL teams, as well as players signed as free agents. In total, Robert has negotiated over $65 million in NFL contracts during his career as an NFL agent. A published author on the role of agents in the sports world, Robert is a licensed attorney in the state of New Jersey. He played football as a wide receiver here at TCNJ and also has coached football. So we're very excited to have him as our moderator. And our guest speaker, Al Guido, the president of the San Francisco 49ers and very proud alumni of TCNJ. In his 5th season as the president of the San Francisco 49ers, Al Guido is responsible for all strategic initiatives and business operations for the 5-time Super Bowl winning NFL franchise and Levi's Stadium. Guido concurrently serves as the chairman and CEO of Elevate Sports Ventures, a best-in-class sports and entertainment consulting firm providing innovative solutions to organizations across the global sports and entertainment landscape. Guido's career-leading NFL, NHL, and NBA franchises and award-winning industry consultancies has established Guido as one of the industry's leading operators. Driven by his signature mission to foster innovation with responsibility, Guido remains dedicated to leveraging the platform and brand power of sports and entertainment to generate positive impact across the globe. So thank you so much for being here, and we're very excited to have you talk with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dean. And Shannon, great job on the intros. Appreciate it. The format tonight, that we'll do is we'll do 30, 40 minutes where myself and Al will talk, and I'll interview Al and ask him some real cool questions. And then we'll open up for Q&A for the students and stuff like that. So Al, appreciate you coming on. Great for you to be here. And thanks very much for showing up and doing this Zoom with us. One question that came to mind when we first started doing, the questions I was going to ask you is, you're a proud graduate of TCNJ School of Business, and tell the students about your journey from TCNJ to where you're at now with the 49ers, Al, if you could.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rob. And thanks for having me, everyone. I wish we were able to do this in person. I know someday soon we will be able to. And Shannon and Dean, thank you for the kind introductions. Shannon, I'm gonna have to take some tips for you from my girls. They're just getting involved in AAU basketball, my oldest. So I loved hearing the background. You know, Rob, after I left TCNJ or graduated TCNJ, I took a brief stint as a financial advisor working for American Express, not too far down the road from the school itself. Within about, I would say, a couple months, I decided to leave and get into the sports world. I took a ticket sales job for the Philadelphia 76ers and Flyers, which was owned by Comcast Spectrum Corp. Was the parent company of those two organizations. And I'll do the short sort of recap. I left there. I went to minor league baseball. Then I got to NHL hockey in Phoenix. I got my big break working for the Dallas Cowboys. Then worked for an agency at Legends, and then got to the San Francisco 49ers. That's the quick one. I know I'm sure you'll have a bunch of follow-ups, but it's been a fun, almost 20-year run that's brought me to the Bay.
Cool. No, that's great. That's great. Your role at the 49ers, Al, what are your responsibilities for the team that you do with them at this point?
I run the team when everything's going well, and I have no responsibility when things are not going. No, I oversee all the business operations for the team and the stadium. To give a quick little background, the San Francisco 49ers is, as Shannon mentioned, obviously 5-time Super Bowl champions. We were located in South San Francisco at Candlestick Park, and we moved into a new stadium in Santa Clara, which for folks on the East Coast, it's about a 50-mile move. So it's a pretty big move to move your organization that far south. And for the 49ers, not just the 49ers, but it was the first stadium built in 50 years, new stadium built in 50 years in California. So it was a massive feat to pull it off. And since then, I worked on the stadium project. When the stadium got out of the ground in 2014, we're now heading into our 7th season here. And so it's been a lot of fun, but our organization has grown from roughly 80 members on our staff, which is a really small business for those who are tuning in. I think the interesting part about sports entertainment is they're viewed as these big, huge brands, and they are. Sometimes they are these very, very small companies relative to the staff size. But we are now over 400 employees within our organization, both on the stadium and team side.
Wow. No, that's crazy. What about in terms of the stadium? Tell us a little bit about the stadium, because I know I haven't been there yet. It's one of the stadiums I haven't been to yet, but I've heard it's really a really cool stadium. What are some of the features about the stadium that's pretty neat that you thought were pretty awesome?
Well, we're proud of it for sure. I mean, it's a 2 million square foot facility, but I think that, like, obviously facts and figures, it's 70,000 seats, it's 170,000 luxury boxes. But most importantly, we focused on 3 pillars. As we thought about the funnel of decision making, the 3 pillars we focused on was sustainability, technology, and fan experience. And sustainability, of course, core to the Bay Area, right? When you got here, it was one of those things, and technology core to the Bay Area. And so what you'll find about our venue when you come to it, and I think it's like any good technology, you don't know how good it is because the user interface is so quality that all the back end systems that built it, you don't get a sense of all that, right? And I think about when you look at your phone, or when you use a specific app or two, you use it and it has stickiness because of the user experience and how friendly it is and the utility functions it provides you in your day of life to make your world easier. And when I talk about technology in a stadium, game day should always be about the hero feature, which is the 11 people on the field, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. And we all should be focused in on that hero feature whenever it's in play. And the fascinating thing about the National Football League, which you know well, Rob, is it is really a 4-hour experience with only 25 to 28 minutes of live actual sport.
Right.
And so what do you do for the next 3.5 hours? And how do you stay connected to the broader universe? And so for us, it was, we wanted to build a stadium that was a software driven stadium, not a hardware driven stadium. What that means is, of course, we had pretty like huge, big scoreboards and LED, but we wanted to have underlying infrastructure and bandwidth that took advantage of everybody that was investing outside of sports. And so if you think about the world's best technology companies that are in our backyard, they're investing every single day in their mobile phones, in the applications that are on those mobile phones, the speed in which you can download information or upload information, the content in which you can consume. And we felt as though we needed to crack the code around connectivity in stadium and then rely on much more sophisticated partners to build a user experiences that unique to 70,000 people, which is what's in your hand. That is unique to you. And ultimately, if we provide the platform when you're not engaged in the 25 minutes of sport, that we think that experience in the stadium is second to none. And I'm proud of it. We've done more events here than any other stadium in the country in the first 7 years, not just NFL, but non-NFL. We were the first team to host a Super Bowl, a college football championship, and a WrestleMania. I know that's been done now in Tampa, but we were the first to do it. And so It's been a lot of fun.
What was the coolest show besides the NFL games you've been to at Levi Stadium? You personally?
Well, I like to say I sat on the bench at Tcnj, so you could say I played football or I participated in football, but I'm a huge collegiate sports fan, and for me, the college football national championship outside of the NFL games was the most unique event we put on here. The pageantry, the passion around college athletics, and what it means. I come at it. It was funny. People ask me why we wanted to put on the Pac-12 championship game or other college sports events. And I always said, well, because the majority of the folks that are participating in those, whether on the field or off the field, will never go on to play pro sports. And there's something so special about that 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is that you have. It's such a short span in your life. And to be able to do that and see what that meant to, at the time, Clemson, Alabama. Now, they had a lot of players that went on to play in the NFL, but I think it was just unique. And the Bay Area, which is not known as a college sports market, really got the feel for what it felt like to be in a big college sports market. So that was super cool.
Oh, that's great. It was a good game, too. It was a good game.
Yes, very good game. Very good game.
Yeah. Take the students through a day for you, Al, at the 49ers and what you do, on a day-to-day basis, typical day, as best you can.
Yeah, I break them down into two buckets, which is like game day and non-game day. Game day is all around, obviously, putting on the event. And, we say now you have like 10 Super Bowls here at the 49ers. We all know we're going to play 17 games plus preseason. But, when it relates to if you think about it in the terms of how do you keep customer satisfaction high? We have a very high bar to jump over in the sense that we only really have 10 days in which our fans interact with us in person. Now, there's other events that happen throughout the year, but if you thought about a restaurant, right? I might go to a restaurant once, maybe I don't have a great experience. I try it again. I have a better experience. Like if we mess up once, we may lose a fan for life, or we may lose a season ticket holder for life. So those 10 days are very, very important. And so for that, I focus a lot on the game day experience from driveway to quote unquote stadium and back. On non-game days, it's all over the map, Rob. Like I think that what people probably don't anticipate is my busy time is actually the off season. My non-busy time is during the season, because all the planning and preparation and setup happens now. And for instance, today I might, do, 3 different meetings around the NFL draft, which is next week. I might be on the phone call with the governor's office around our COVID protocols and what that might look like moving forward. And then I literally just got off a phone call with a college athletic director on the Elevate business. And so given the fact I have 2 jobs, I'm trying to balance both. So there's not one day that I can give you where there's like a set schedule in my life.
But how great is that? Like, that's what I love about my business in my day, is because no day is the same, and you never know what's going to come down the pike when you walk in the office. It's actually, I like that about our business.
It's the thing that I love the most about it, which is, sales and marketing is, every business needs sales and marketing, and every business needs general and administrative work for sure. I think as it relates to being in sports, there's this extra carrot at the end of the day, which is your affiliation with the team and or the property and or the player, and the human connection to that, which differentiates a sports job from another job. And what I mean by that is, when I got involved in sports, Monday through Friday, sales wise, felt like any other sales job, right? I have a product to sell, or I have a service to sell, and I'm trying to reach out to customers to sell them my service, or get them to understand why my product might be better than theirs. The biggest difference with my job is, on Sunday afternoons, I got to go to the stadium and watch it happen in person.
Right.
And sports often gets said as like the escape for people. I actually don't like escape. I like exhale. Sports is, it's where we all come together around a common cause, or at least the majority of people, right? There might be people in our stadium that are rooting for the other team, but it's the last place on the planet that within 5 seconds of meeting another individual, I could be immediately friends with them.
Yeah, to connect.
And the human connection of that is so powerful that it doesn't just go to game day, it goes to non-game day. So you're right. I love sports for a whole host of reasons. I will tell the students or whoever's on, I originally got involved with sports because I thought my answer to an interview question was, well, I love sports, so I must want to work it. And I promise you, if that's all your answer is, you won't love it. It's a lot of long hours. It's not a 9-to-5 job if you're looking for that. It is a grind at times. Sometimes it's not as heavily, as paid as much as maybe another job might be. But if you're willing to go through the grind, and you truly love not just what you do, but how you do it and who you get to do it with, there's no better place than sports.
Yeah, that's what I talk about the students with all the time. Find something you're passionate about, that you love to do, and it's not like work, and you can get paid for it, which is the key thing.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think, Al, is the one skill set that you have that's helped you the most throughout your profession? And then how did you develop that skill set for the students, do you think? If there's one or a couple or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a skill set. I think my intellectual curiosity has really, I hope, enabled me to have somewhat to learn the industry faster, to have more success. What I would tell people is, you're your own best advocate. Like I used to say, just work hard, like work hard, keep your head down. No, you're not. Like you represent players. Like you need to be an advocate for yourself. And yes, you do need to work hard and do your job first, accountability to your job. But the second part is your commitment to being a subject matter expert needs to be a daily grind. And I think about it like I think about technology companies that don't spend in research and development, like technologies become obsolete. And there's all kinds of case studies, right? We can look at Blockbuster to Netflix to Toys R Us to what happened in e-commerce. And to me, like, we can do business to business case studies, but I think human case studies is your own evolution, and your education doesn't end when you put down the books in school. And yes, you might be one day a subject matter expert, and the next day you might be completely obsolete. And my intellectual curiosity around where sports is headed in the future, as I think it's helped me have success, because it's not just about the day-to-day. It's about what should I be thinking about personally and professionally. What skill sets am I going to need 5 years from now that I need to start working on today? And I know that's a rough answer or, you know, macro level answer, but I do think that my curiosity when I was a young person coming out of school was I wanted to be a subject matter expert on what I got hired to do, while also at the same time learning everything I didn't know as fast as I humanly possibly could. And I would sit down with people in the stadium operations world and be like, what is your day-to-day like? I know I'm in sales, but what do you do every day? And how can I learn it? Or e-commerce, right? Okay, Fanatics is our partner. How do they make their money? How do they run their business? And so I actually got really interested, if you think about it in like a car term, instead of buying a car and thinking about all the features, think about it from a mechanics term, right? What went into that car? Why is it different than the next, right? What are the parts and products and services that they're offering? And that's how I think about our world was, don't just tell me what the end outcome is, actually re-engineer it to figure out how they got there, and it'll make you much smarter and much more, you know, much more of a talent that people will want to bring on because they feel like you'll be an expert in what you do, but also be willing to help them as they continue to grow.
Right, and you've taken the time to find out what they're about and what they're doing with their job, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, we're in a human business. You know, we're in a people business. Like everybody, at times, if anybody watches Shark Tank, right, they'll always the number one, like the questions are outside of valuation are always like, is your product patented, right, or what is your intellectual property? In sports, our intellectual property is the sport. So the rest of it is people. And so when it comes down to it, what I love about working in this industry is we're all sort of running up the same hill together. And even though, like, yes, on Sundays, my team competes against the next team, on Monday through Friday, as an industry, we're all trying to get better because it helps the whole, right? The whole like rising tide lifts all boats type of thing. As a human or as a person that's kind of trying to work their way up in industry, have that same sort of mindset, which is what's good for me is great, but also like, how can I go help somebody else that they might not even think that I need to or want to help them, but how do I learn is core to anybody's success.
Just that intellectual curiosity, I guess, correct?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking
that's
about.
exactly right.
Yeah, no, that's great. What do you think in terms of TCNJ? What did it help prepare you for when you got out in the real world, basically?
Life. I mean, my friends would call me grandpa at times because I was probably ahead of my age as it relates to the fun, let's just say, that you have on campus. Maybe I had too much fun as a high schooler. Look, I think I am a big proponent of higher education, and I think it's both things, which is the IQ and the EQ. And at times in my life, I've said EQ might be more important than IQ. Look, I think you get both by going to college in whatever way anybody could. And I was lucky enough to go to TCNJ, play a sport, but be part of a broader community that had my best interest at heart. And I, you know, I got as much out of it as I could. And I would say the people that were very supportive of me didn't need to, but you know, for me, it was like, it's a love I can't ever describe. It's like going to do your own laundry, showing up at your own school, at your own class, taking the extra couple hours to study in the library versus going out on a Thursday night. Like, you're going to have to make those same decisions in your work life as you do in your college life. And you'll see where you put in the work and you make the commitment to being your best self, you will get a lot out of it. And I think that where I found success in school was when I put in my own commitment. And it's a two-way street, right? The teachers have the commitment, but the students have a bigger commitment. And when you care enough about yourself to commit to a cause that you're passionate about, and at the time your job is school, do the best job you can, sooner or later your job will be your job. I think that commitment, if you make it and go above and beyond, you'll have success.
No, that's great. it's I always liken it to like you're your own business when you're in college. Like you are in your own business. And so it's you got the entrepreneurial spirit where if you actually, apply yourself and do the extra and do as best you possibly can, there's no telling where you can go with it. So
Yeah, and I hope I'm a walking somewhat example of it. I mean, I don't
no doubt.
I came from a town in South Jersey. I'm super proud of the school I went to. I became, at the time, I think the youngest president in NFL history. I don't have family members that grew up in the sport. My father was a truck driver. My mother was an administrator. Like TCNJ gave me every opportunity that I could ever ask for. And then the reality is when the doors open, you better blast through it. And I got doors open for me, and hopefully, thankfully I was able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I know, Justin Tucker's one of my bigger clients, Al, and I know he was a rookie mini camp invite, and his mindset was he wasn't going to he was going to knock the door down and kick it through, pardon the pun, when he got the shot. And that's the mentality and the mental makeup I think you got to have to be successful, in any industry, I would say.
Yeah, and you gotta find a way to stand out. I mean, which is no different in school, right? Which is, look, you can stand out from your grades, of course. But as I try to teach my daughters, you can also stand out by the person you are, and how much you care for others and how supportive you are, and that's why I say it's both, right? It's both the commitment to the schoolwork, but it's also the commitment to yourself and others. And the world is small. Like I never thought I would leave the tri-state area. We talked about this in our. I never thought I would. And I'm glad I did, and I learned a lot, and I've gotten experiences I never thought I would have. But don't ever take for granted any individual you come in contact with, and what you could do for them and what they could do for you. Like I got my job with the Dallas Cowboys, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of people on here that hate Dallas Cowboys, right? And I get it. Trust me, my father despised them as a Philadelphia Eagle fan.
How about those Cowboys?
But I got my job from the Dallas Cowboys because a sales trainer, when I was 23 years old, took a liking to me and the respect I gave that sales trainer, such that when I got in a management position, I hired that trainer to train my staff. That sales trainer knew the person that took a job with the Dallas Cowboys and put me up for that job. Now, I could have been 23, hothead, who's this, 50-some-year-old sales trainer, and what do I stand to learn from them? And I'm in this temporary $6 an hour telemarketing job. No, I thought, like, he came to help me. He came to train me one day, just like you go to teach these people. And I viewed it as I wanted to get to know everything about him because he spent his life in sports sales training. And it just so happens 4 years later, he put me up for the biggest job in sports. And that's why I just don't ever take any situation for granted or any person for granted. You never know when that person might come back in your life and be able to help you out.
Yeah, no, it's great words of wisdom. I'll tell you what, it's true. I mean, I remember my first guy that it really dealt a lot when my 20-some odd years ago, trying to get guys in the league, was an intern for the Kansas City Chiefs, and his name was John Schneider. And we've been friends ever since. And now he's a GM of the Seahawks. So, yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, that's how it works. What's your fondest memory from TCNJ back in the day?
My last football game, for sure. The short story of it is I came to TCNJ from community college, and because of community college, it made it such that while I of course I had 4 years of eligibility if I wanted to take them, that I graduated in 3 years as I got on campus. And I had not told Coach Hamilton that I was going to, graduate and effectively not play my last year, which would have been my senior year. And my cousin at the time, Matt Scarvaglione, who the Scarbaglione family, has been part of the TCNJ family,
Yep.
mentioned to Coach Ham that I was going to go do that, and I did not want to take away from the seniors' night. They had spent 4 years there, and for me, it wasn't about me. I just so happened to get the opportunity to go to the school. I was so proud to have gone to it. I only played 3 years. I didn't think that I deserved any like recognition for going through senior night like all the student athletes will do. And Coach Ham made a big deal out of it to make it such
Yeah.
that I enjoyed senior night. And I didn't play a lot, and I got on the field against Keene, and Bob Schertz threw me a touchdown, and
There we go.
the whole sideline made a big deal out of it. And afterwards I got interviewed and I got to tell the story, and I still have it up in my office here. And look, it was one of those things where I got so lucky that Coach Ham took an interest in me as a kid who never thought he'd go to college. Nobody in my family ever went to college, and I never thought I could afford it. And one Saturday afternoon, I visited my cousin. Coach Hamilton saw me after the game and said, how are you doing? How's your grades at community college? I said, they're going great, Coach Ham. And he said, what do you want to do? And I was going to go off to the military. I said, well, I think I'm going to go off to the military. That's probably my best next step. And he said, why don't you think about coming here? And I said, no, Coach Ham, I don't think I'd ever be able to pull it off. And it's all these small little interactions.
Yeah.
Coach Ham made me apply. I got in, I got my financial aid. I made it work. And then to have it all come full circle on that senior night, that shouldn't have been my senior night. And the seniors shouldn't let me, celebrate with them, but they did. And that part, I'll never forget it. I was in tears that night. And it almost convinced me to come back, but then I realized I wanted to go get a job and start to pay all my school down. But it's a special moment for me.
Nah, I tell you, get goosebumps hearing that kind of story. That's what it's all about. That's what the college experience is at TCNJ too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and then I got to go back to campus a few years ago and speak and see the growth of the college, and I have an immense amount of pride telling people where I went to school, and I love the rankings that get put out, and I constantly read them, and I jab my wife who went to Widener about our school ranking versus
okay, there we go.
But yeah, it was great. Like I can't wait to take my kids back to college and tell them where I went. And yeah, it was awesome. It's a great experience.
No, that's great. What advice would you give to students that have an interest in getting in sports? Because I get a lot of students who really are very interested in getting into the business. What would be your advice? You touched on a little bit already, I know.
Yeah, I think don't get overly focused on like your end goal. A lot of people think, when I got out of college, I always thought like, what do I want to do with my life? Please don't go to the end game. Just go to the next step. Get your foot in the door wherever it is. If you want to work in sports, you have a passion for it, take whatever job, in my opinion, no matter what, if it's not in the vertical that you ultimately think you want to work in, take it and see what it's like. And then again, we're in a competitive world right now, but we're in the most connected world we've ever been. And so when I got out of college, my ability to get to me, right, was almost unheard of. I didn't know their email. I couldn't LinkedIn them. I didn't, none of that. I mean, maybe it existed, but I don't remember it existing in the way that it exists today. And so, if you don't have a right, who's your agent, be your best agent. The best way to do that is live outside of your CV, your piece of paper, because your piece of paper is only your entry into the door. It's a great entry, and having TCNJ as a part of that is a tremendous headline. But the body of the work needs to be you actually going and attacking the job. And that means don't just apply through some online portal and wait for you, right? Like you got into TCNJ or you went to TCNJ School of Business because you didn't just do the baseline, right? You did more. Right. And so take that same approach to the work world, which is don't just apply, send the email, send a gift, send whatever. And then when you're there, like your elevator speech has got to be great. You got
Yeah, 2 minutes.
People with short attention spans that, you know, and they're going to tell you thousands of people apply for these jobs every single day. Why should I select you? Like, that is the first question you're going to get. And you better come out of the gate storming with whatever your answer here is. And then the last part is sell to the ego. And everybody says ego like a bad thing. Like, think like, look up the person that you think is the hiring manager. Find the latest article or headline or where they went to school or what passion point, and figure out where your intersection is. Like, I used to, there was this movie 6 Degrees of Separation. Like, figure out what your 6 degrees of separation is. And if you don't have one, figure out what your common causes are that you're passionate about and sell those. And that amount, like, if you do that front end work, it'll go a long way.
Gotcha. No, that's great. That's great. One last question, then we'll open up for questions, Q&A and stuff like that. Has there been a moment for you, Al, working in sports, where you had that moment where you said to yourself, you know what, I am really fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing in my business, for my business professional life? Has there been a moment like that for you? If you could share with us, if there is.
Yeah. 2 moments, I would say. I went to work for the minor league baseball team, and I took the job for all the wrong reasons, and I'll get into it later, Q&A. But and I felt lost and trapped, and I felt like I made the biggest mistake of my life. And luckily, I got out of it, and I realized what was important to me, because I had lost track of it for a little while. And what was important to me was the people that I was going to go work for, the job in which I was taking on versus the pay and the title. And so, that kind of wake up moment for me was a really big one, which was, stop focusing so much on the money and the title, which are, important. Focus on the things that ultimately I thought was going to take my career further. Don't take short-term wins by sacrificing long-term gains, right? The second is recently, Rob, which is, I'd like to think I didn't take my job for granted. I think the reality is, at times, of course I did. And the pandemic stripped away a lot from all of us, some more than others. Luckily, I've none of my family members have made it through. They've all been vaccinated. My sister's a nurse, so I've seen what she's gone through on the front lines. I'll never take going to a stadium or a sporting event in person for granted anymore. And I can't wait. I pinch myself that I get to do it again, and I get to, like, however many more years I have left doing this, and hopefully I have a lot, I plan on enjoying and soaking up every single minute of what goes on at those events with my kids, because it's a special thing. And the ability to walk my girls on the Levi Stadium grass and watch them cheer on, quote unquote, daddy's team, I'll never take that for granted anymore. And I pitch myself that I'll have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I can share with you, my biggest moment for me was being at the Pro Bowl with my 2 boys and with one of my clients, and seeing them like just totally like enjoying the whole experience and being like, okay, how cool is that my kids get to share in what I do for a living, and can be a part of it, which is really, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I tell people, I know we're going to have the questions, like, if the whole, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in life. My stealing of that phrase was, if you wake up in the morning and you put your 2 feet on the ground and you're sprinting to whatever it is you do, you got the right job. And then I hope that when you put your 2 feet on the ground at whatever workplace you have, you're sprinting home. And
that's awesome. The second part.
Because you got a family and a lifestyle that you love to be around. And I'm doing both right now. And I know how fleeting that can be. Without getting into all my life story, I know how fleeting that can be. And so now, even though, yes, I don't have my best day every day, I'm going to try to, moving forward, as best I can, to not cheat any day. Because too many people don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, so we got a couple questions here, Al, and we'll go through And just want to let everyone else know on the Zoom, the Q&A is open, so feel free to send in a question. First question we got, Al, is what does the sports industry, specifically the NFL, look like for women? And are you seeing more women interested in this field?
Yes, I'm seeing a whole lot more women interested in the field, and I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for women, and not just women, but folks of all diverse backgrounds. And this is something I'm very passionate about, personally and professionally. I'm proud of the San Francisco 49ers. We're at the very top of the National Football League when it comes to race, ethnicity, gender, diversity. I think not just diversity of people, but diversity of thought is what makes up the best organizations or corporations in the world. The second part is I got 3 girls. I'm a father I'm a girl dad, as they say, hashtag girl dad. And my wife made her mark in the sports industry at a time when it's not easy now. It wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy then. My wife was a vice president of corporate partnerships at probably 27, 28 years old, working on behalf of Comcast Spectacor. So she managed the Flyers and Sixers business out of Widener, and she was a force to be reckoned with. And I, now she's a force with my children and in our family. But look, I watched what she went through, which wasn't always easy, and how she handled it with grace, and still, she had a great career, and now not only there are good opportunities now, but it is incumbent upon myself and everyone else who runs a professional sports team to create as many opportunities for the best people to take those jobs. And I think that what I'm proud of in the sports industry right now is the stereotypes and those walls are breaking down, and they're breaking down quickly. And I think there's a lot of really good teams that have obviously led the way there. And so, yes, if you're a female and you're interested in getting into sports, I would tell you, one, like, there's great opportunities. Two, like, the world is your oyster. There are so many cool teams, and there's so many cool leagues, and there's so many cool agencies that you can go work for and make a huge difference at.
Okay, great. Another question: do you ever work or / interact with the players, Al?
Yes.
In your capacity.
Yeah. I mean, all the time to some degree. As Rob knows, like, my function is, so we report to ownership, or I report to ownership, and John Lynch is our general manager, both report to ownership. John and Kyle Shanahan obviously manage the roster and the players and who we pick and who we sign and all those good things. But yeah, there's no business and football. It's the business of football. And I think that, both sides need to be talking to each other. What's good for the players is good for the business. What's good for the business is good for the players. And, Rob knows as well, which in the National Football League, the players make a percentage of what's calculated as all revenues, or AR, what they say. And, the larger the collective we make that pie, right, the more the players get. And so I think that's where what I love about the National Football League is, and of course, there's always going to be debates and disputes, but I would say generally aligned in the growth of the sport, right? We all want the sport to grow. We all want the sport to be better. We all want the sport to make as much money as possible, so that those who are playing it, the hero feature, are compensated for the job in which they do on a daily basis. And so, yes, I interact with the players, and they are a ton of fun. And the fascinating thing is they're just like any one of us, except for the fact that they're 6'3", 200 some pounds, and run a 4.40. Outside of that, they're just like everybody else.
Right. There's that 1% that are able to play professional sports, basically, right?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Do you have another question we had was, any advice for a major that you would recommend for pursuing a sports business career for students in college?
I mean, I was just general, should I say just, I was, general business administration. You don't, economics is what it's hard, right? If you're a PR major, communications, all those are good things. I think what Tcnj did me well, which prepared me well for, was the communication aspects of sort of the human interaction. I think what I've spent a lot of time on in my own growth is general administration, finance.
Okay.
I think if you look at the world's CEOs, right, you could argue 80% of them or 75% of them come from some type of sales and marketing background. And I think a lot of people say, well, it's because they sold something. Well, it's probably because they're effective communicators. So to be a really good salesperson is really just to be an effective communicator. And I often say, sales gets this misnomer or this, everyone sells. You're going to sell yourself to whoever your potential employer may be. You're going to sell yourself to whoever your partner in life is going to be, right? And you're going to consistently sell yourself to those who are making decisions about your career growth. So I don't care if you're in finance. Don't say you don't sell anything. Yes, you do. You sell who you are, what you're about, what you can do for that organization. And so I think communication skills are certainly needed. And it's definitely, I think to get to the higher levels of any business, one has to understand the underlining sort of P&L of how that business works. And so for me, like, I got in as a salesperson when I got into sports. So I generated revenue. I thought that was the greatest way to keep a job. To maintain a job, to grow a job, to get into leadership, I needed to understand how the business itself worked. We're in for-profit entity, right? We all want to make money so that we can hire more people, make more money ourselves. I think the financial part is one where what I wouldn't say is you don't have to be that major, but I would make sure that you truly, really understand whatever business you get into, you understand the underlying economics of that business.
Okay. Another question here. Where do you see sports going in the future, Al? Next 5 years, the business of sports.
Top of the food chain. I mean, listen, if you think about it this way, what is the last thing you watched on live television? My guess is it's cable news or live sports. That's my guess for most of the audience that is listening. And so if you think about it that way, everyone talks about, well, broadcast ratings or cord cutters or this or that. The delta between live sports and entertainment consumption to any other content is actually growing. It's not declining, it's growing, meaning more people are consuming sports than have ever been consumed at the highest levels. And in North America, so my agency, we operate in 16 states and 3 countries. North America is a tremendous growth opportunity to work in sports. One, we generally have the best athletes. 2, our underlying infrastructure of those companies that are interested in sports makes it such that there's enough demand out there, right? And what I mean by that is you think about the broadcast deals that just got done.
Billions.
If you look at the market cap of the streaming companies, their market cap as a whole, right, or Apple's market cap as a whole is more than the combined market cap of a Fox or a CBS or anything other ones. And so what I mean by that is every single one of these large institutions either has their hand in sports today or has the thought to be involved in sports and entertainment content in the future. And the sophistication of which has happened inside of the sports and entertainment industry, when I got into it, I used to say they were like a more sophisticated movie theater, meaning you opened up the doors and people came. Now, these are billion-dollar industries or billion-dollar teams, right? The asset value of any type of team might be, somewhere between 2 billion and 5 billion. Well, in 2002, that might have been under $1 billion. And so with that asset appreciation has become a sophistication in how they build their business. And so what I mean by that is the San Francisco 49ers were a football team. Then you become an investment arm. Then you become a real estate developer. Then you might own an esports team. Then you might have a content company. Shoot, if you're the Chicago Cubs, you might create, or the New York Yankees, you might create your own regional sports network.
Right.
So it's no better time, in my opinion, to be interested in getting involved in sports, because before it was you could only get a job as a salesperson. Now I think there's so many opportunities across multiple different disciplines to get involved in sports.
Yeah, you just see so many different streams of revenue when it comes to sports. That what you just talked about when you just laid it out. You mentioned about maybe 9 different streams of revenue that a franchise, a team can actually bring in.
Yeah, and you
Basically.
don't need the institutional knowledge is good. It's nice to have, but it's no longer the prerequisite to get a job. Meaning,
Right.
you don't have to have worked in sports before to work in sports now. And I have, and Rob, you have this too, because of your agency, right? I have the benefit of seeing it from what I call the property side, which is the team side, and the agency side, which is I'm property agnostic, or I could represent any property or any league, right? And so you see all the different opportunities as the leagues go through their own maturation process. And you look at a league like MLS, like it's 25 years old. That might sound really old to everybody on this call. Well, think about the English Premier League, like hundreds of years. So, the fastest growing sport in North America might be soccer. Well, at the same time, they're still at their infancy in how they think about, not how they think about it, but their infancy of how they build the future of that league and how it gets monetized and how it grows over time. And that's the really cool part, because I think you can find, depending upon where your passion lies. And the last thing I'll add is, don't relegate yourself to the sport in which you love the most, right? Like I love hoops. I was probably a better football player than I was a basketball player, but at the time I actually liked basketball better, right? If you rolled out both balls, I'd probably pick up the basketball first before I'd pick up the football. I love all sports, and like I don't ever poo-poo, don't work in baseball, NBA, like pick the job title and the person in which you think has your best interest and that you will be successful so that it will lead to your next opportunity versus the sport, because the disciplines are roughly the same. It really comes down to the people that you work for and the role and responsibility that you're given, and do you think you should be successful. Do not tune out any individual sport for your preconceived notion of that sport is not the right one to be in.
Yeah, just like we said, you got your big break with the Cowboys because of the guy you worked for at the Flyers back in the day, right?
Yeah, I never. The one thing about the Coyotes experience, which gets back to the mistake I made, which was, I used to. Some people call it logo shopping, right? I used to think like, oh, I want to work for this brand, or I want to work for this brand, or you get picky. And I wanted to move up the food chain as fast as I humanly possibly could. And so with that, I took a job in minor league baseball because I had a cool title and it made me more money than what I made at the Philadelphia 76ers. But it was short term. I didn't really love minor league baseball. I wasn't passionate about selling $6 tickets, right? And while I love the individuals I work for, I did not sprint to work every day. Like I didn't ask the right questions. And so I left to go to the Phoenix Coyotes, and somebody was like, why would you go to the Phoenix Coyotes? I didn't go to the Phoenix Coyotes. I went to work for Jim Van Stone. That's how I felt about it.
Okay.
It just so happened that Jim Van Stone worked for the Coyotes. And so I started to think about, okay, who am I going to work for and what's the job? And Jim was who I wanted to work for. The job was leading a sales team that in and of itself, like I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder in life. Selling hockey in the desert was not easy. And I thought, well, shoot, if I one, get to work for the person I love, and two, if I pull this off and am I successful, when most people think I won't be able to, well, then I'll get noticed more. Because at the time I felt like, well, shoot, anybody could sell from Madison Square Garden, but
Right.
not everybody can sell hockey in the desert. And so if you turn around an industry that otherwise was struggling, I think that's why the people of the Cowboys would say, people of the Cowboys were like, wait, the Coyotes guy? And he's like, well,
Right.
exactly that. Yes, because if he could do that there, well, give him this big brand, and what can we do here? I don't know that they thought that, but that's how I rationalized it in my head, was person and responsibility. Brand, important. Third on my third on my food chain.
Okay. Another question. What advice would you provide to a TCNJ student who is looking for a career in player personnel and development?
Oof. Be willing to grind. You
Right.
know, at any level. Player personnel is a grind, as Rob knows. There's
Yep.
you know, our college scouts are on the road all the time, staying in remote places and hotel rooms, and they're connecting with everybody in the world to try to advance their career, but and be patient. I think that's, you know, it's something, of course, any older person would say to a younger person. And it sounds like that whole, like, I marched six miles to school type of thing. But you really do have to have a level of patience in this business. And I think that, you know, find an opportunity, don't poo-poo it, take it, and then be willing to really grind, because it's quite a bit of grind.
Gotcha. Let's see. What are your favorite sports outside of football, Al?
I love basketball. I'm a diehard Philadelphia 76ers fan. I joke with Josh Harris and David Blitzer, who own the team, and that there's two sports I watch. I watch all sports, but like practice, I'll watch the 49ers practice if I have to. I literally watch Philadelphia 76ers summer league games still, and I have no affiliation with the team, but I send notes back to the folks there around what I think, as if they care. But I love hoops, and I've come to really, really love soccer. My girls took a liking to it. You know, I'm part of a group that owns a piece of an English Premier League team now, and so I got to go over to the UK
Cool.
probably 15 years ago now to watch Manchester City, and I fell in love. I felt like, man, this is, you know, whatever I thought about soccer at the time as a football player, you know the stereotypical thought, but I love the sport. I think it's a great sport.
Their game day experience. I've watched the stuff on Amazon where they follow the teams. Their game day experience looks like phenomenal in the stands.
I mean, listen, when I went to I'll never forget it. I went to Man City, Man U, and so what's fascinating for me as an American is when you go over there and let's just say the Premier League for a second, the teams in the Premier League can fit inside the state of Georgia. So to rationalize that for folks on the East Coast, imagine the Red Sox and Yankees being 4 miles apart from each other. 4 miles. Liverpool and Everton are 1.5 miles apart from each other. So think about the Yankees and Red Sox being 1.5 miles apart from each other. That is crazy to me to think about. You can take a train and only take 2 hours to get to every Premier League game in the country. What's awesome, I got to a game and I literally took out my phone, right? Within I was taking pictures, and I bought a single seat at the top level of Etihad, and the people next to me could not have looked at me with more of like scout, like almost. I mean, so I immediately put my phone away because it was like sacrilegious. Like the first
really?
45 minutes I was going to watch, and then at halftime I was going to sprint to the bar to drink my 2 pints. And then I was going to go watch my next 45 minutes, which was so different than the American experience, right? Which is, we're so on these things at all times. And so anyway, it's that I will tell people, if you're really into sports and you just want a different vibe, like by all means, if you get a chance to go international, go check it out. It's awesome.
It really looks pretty incredible. Well, we're here at the top of the hour, Al, and any closing thoughts for the students they'd like to impart?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the time, and for those who tuned in to listen. And what I would say to those who are still in the School of Business, or all the undergrads, enjoy it. It goes really fast. I know everybody's going to tell you that, but it really does. And then the second is, it's something I tell my girls now, which is, the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately.
Ooh, I gotta write that one down. That's a good one.
Thank you. We all want what's best for us. The people that differentiate themselves are the ones that are willing to work for it. And so, like I said, get your foot in the door, and then once someone opens for it, kick it down, do the best job you possibly can, and the world will be a lot of fun. And then lastly, if anybody wants to reach out or has some additional thoughts about working in sports, feel free to do so.
Okay. Al, we really appreciate you hopping on and sharing your wisdom with us, and go 49ers.
Thank you, my man. Thanks, Rob.
All right, man. Be good.
Thank you both, and thank you to everyone who joined us. This event was recorded. I will post it to our School of Business YouTube channel and share the link. And thank you for generously offering to answer any more questions students might have. You can send those through me directly and I can funnel them. I will send an email out to all of our attendees today with more information and the link to today's recording. So thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Al.
Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Be good.